Hi, I'm Nikki with People Solutions Hub. So we take the messy out of HR for small businesses, and we really make it easy for small businesses. So we help them with whether it's compliance, they want to upscale their leadership, they're having retention or hiring issues. We really step in, assess their business, and help them take it to new levels.
So what size businesses do you like to work with?
Really, I don't have a size limitation, but when I think of a small business owner that has 100, 200 employees that maybe doesn't have a full-time HR person, maybe they have someone who's doing HR, but they're looking for more of a person like come in and make sure that my compliance looks good. I want someone to coach my leaders, help me make sure that my processes are safe, and take my business to the next level. Really focus on the people portion.
Where do you think a small business goes to the tipping point where the solo entrepreneur starts to grow their business? Where do you think it is important to start infusing and thinking about having someone like you on their team?
Well, the good thing is if whether you have 1 to 100 to 200 plus employees, you really should have someone coming in and taking a look to make sure that as you're growing and building, your employee files look good. You're compliant with state and federal laws. You have systems in place for onboarding, for retention, for training, for even succession for small businesses. So it doesn't have to be like a ongoing relationship. It can be someone to come in. I assess. I do an HR checkup where I check to make sure that your business is healthy, make sure that your processes look good, and then you just call me when you need me. Or if you're getting to the point where you need help, want help ongoing, I also have services that support that, more of that fractional support.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah, fractional is more of like the fully engaged, but not full time. So you may not have the budget, you may not have the need for a full time HR professional, but you want someone that's going to come in that you can trust to handle the processes, whether it's onboarding, payroll, benefits, leadership training, being a part of your leadership team, depending on the size of your business, coaching your leaders, and really, again, just trusting that you're compliant and that all of your HR processes are helping your business scale and grow.
How can having a partner like you in HR help the culture of the business?
That's a great question. Culture is something that's so important that I don't think leaders really realize. I think what we find with culture is it's something that's just always there. You assume it's good, but when you start to have employees start to leave or you can't hire people, you recognize your brand isn't great, is probably the first time that leaders really appreciate it. And what I suggest is let's be proactive. Let's make sure your leaders are successful, set up to be successful. Make sure that they are keeping people in mind, giving feedback regularly. It doesn't have to be easy. It doesn't have to necessarily be, or it doesn't have to be hard, but we can make sure that your leaders are giving feedback, they're developing their talent, and they're really, prepared to help their employees because it's expensive to replace employees. It's expensive when people leave and you don't have someone doing that job and you have to pay someone else overtime or you're not able to meet your clients' needs and it's impacting your revenue. So I would say let's be proactive in the beginning. Let's talk about culture. Let's talk about how important it is to make sure you have the right people in the right place.
That is so important, and so many solo entrepreneurs, as they start to grow and scale, they're just trying to put out fires.
Yeah.
They're just trying to, "Oh, I need sales," and then they go to sales, and then and to be able to have someone like you on their team as kind of that Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I love it that I can be as involved in your team, but I can also just be a phone call away is so important.
Yep. Yeah, I just have a huge passion for making sure that businesses have what they need. Would I love to be a part of your team on a part-time basis to help make sure I'm supportive and help you grow and get to know you? Absolutely. But if you just want to pick up the phone and need some advice in a moment, that's what I'm there for. So I do free consultations. Anyone that just like, can I understand? Do I need you? Or I have some pain points. Could you be a solution for me? Could you help me? Absolutely. My favorite people to work with are actually, they already have someone that's doing some of their HR. Could be an office manager that's multi functional and they're doing multiple things for the business, but I can make sure that they have the tools that they need to succeed, and that they're prepared to support that business. And then I can be the one point of call for that person when they need it.
Give me an example of when you came into just pure chaos of a company. I just keep seeing, like, on Frappé or
Mhm.
just and
Mhm.
that you came in and you were able to be just calm and grounded, and you were able to not only have the guidance of the team, but also the trust of the leader. Do you have a story or do
Yeah,
you have a I'm
absolutely.
sure you had, like,
Yeah.
50 of them just rattling around.
So one that comes to mind is about a client that was really struggling with retaining their talent.
Mm.
And they also couldn't hire anybody. And so they were underwater or over their head, as you could say,
Right.
everything that was happening. And so I came into the business, and they actually wanted me to focus on some compliance things. But as I got to know them a little bit more and understood that they really had an issue with retaining and hiring talent, which I mentioned earlier is, that can impact your revenue, that can impact your ability to meet your clients' needs. And so we put together a plan, recognizing actually that they had a couple leaders. That one was very toxic and, really needed coaching, was unwilling to be coached and had to be exited. But the other leaders in the business really just needed guidance. They had been promoted because they were really great individual contributors in their positions, but they didn't know how to lead people. And so they were actually still kind of doing the day to day, like, I'm going to micromanage you, telling you how to do your job. And they weren't even able to do their supervisor job because they didn't know how to lead, they didn't know how to delegate. And then they were also avoiding the hard conversations. So staff, they were not getting expectation sets, but they were not also getting like the feedback, positive and areas of opportunity. And so with some training with the leaders, exiting the toxic manager, we really were able to start pointing things forward. What we also did was build trust with the employees, with the leadership, that they were willing to do what was needed. And so as we looked at reevaluating job postings, making sure it said what they wanted, starting to make sure that we could bring in people. It was kind of like the leaky bucket. So no matter how many people you bring in, if you have them leaving, you're never going to be able to maintain what you need for your head count. But if you stop the leaking, right? Why are people leaving? And then as you start to bring people in, then people are going to stay, and you can continue to build that culture.
How has business changed since the pandemic?
That's a great question. So I think it's a variety of things depending on your industry and how people worked. I mean, first, of course, we saw people, everyone was working from home that could. Not everybody could work from home, but everybody did. There were businesses that chose to keep people at home for longer and then struggled to bring people back because they'd let them work from home. That people maybe felt that that was ongoing and wasn't going to change. They had also changed their work life balance. So that return to office has, I think, been challenging, but employers are expecting it and they're feeling, higher productivity. They want the connection. They believe it's for retention. So that's a piece as well. I also think people prior to the pandemic, they were working multiple jobs. And so we didn't have necessarily always an issue at times with like unemployment. And for whatever reason, people found that they could maybe do more with less, or they didn't want to continue to multi with both jobs. And so you are finding some places like restaurants and other, hospitality, where people worked at another job and that are struggling to find the people that they need for their job. So that's kind of an interesting change as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
What are your top 3, um, I don't wanna say things of advice, but, um, yeah, top 3 things you'd advise someone that's looking for a job right now, but not just looking for a job, not just looking for that paycheck, but really wanna land in a company and in a culture and a business that they really want to contribute to and resonate with and grow with and put roots down. What are some words of advice that you might have?
Yeah, I always go back to what's your why?
Mm.
So why do you want to work in this industry? Why do you want this job? Why do you want to get paid this amount of money? And just be grounded in your why. I also think values, when you know what your values are, then you can assess for those in the interview process to make sure that you are working for a company that shares the same values. And then the last piece is just go into that interview prepared, right? But authentic, so that when you are going through that process, you are showing up as you. And so they can assess you for fit and that you are assessing them for fit as well.
How can people have the courageous conversation about money and actually strike money compensation? Because I think some people um, have their eye on the prize of just that what I'm making per week, per month, per year, but then they don't see what the entrepreneur is doing with 401k and health insurance and working from home on Fridays
Mhm,
or Hawaiian shirt day or
mhm,
this or that. What advice would you have actually for both? That's a two-part question
mhm.
for the hiring manager or the business owner, but then also the job seeker as they're trying to come together, like you just said about finding that win-win and that
Yeah.
match.
Yeah. So I think for the candidate, I think it is looking at the full package, and there are things that are not going to be monetary, right? But understanding what that benefits package is. If you're coming from an employer and going to another, sit down and assess, what you're getting from that. What are they contributing to your 401k? What does it look like for your benefits package? Are there things that are intangible around the Hawaiian shirt day or the culture piece that, because sometimes we're running from something and we don't always recognize what we actually have. We also might be leaving a job because of a boss. And maybe if that what could change in your current situation that would maybe make you stay, that maybe wouldn't be leaving a good thing, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
But understanding your full package. And then for employers, I think employers need to make sure that they are able to quantify, what am I giving people? What is that total rewards, as we would call it, package, where they can say, like, here's my what I'm looking at, in my whole package that I'm offering, and how do I speak to that during the recruiting process. And lastly, just keep in mind that when you're hiring someone, they're making the decision if they're joining you just as much as you're deciding. It's not just your decision. So make sure that you're selling the company the opportunity and what you can offer that individual.
Beautiful. There's more women coming into the C-suite. There's more women coming in as entrepreneurs. I have a feeling that there's something special that you also can offer women as they're becoming leaders, becoming owners, but then also as candidates as well. Tell us more a little bit
Sure.
about that little beautifulness that you offer.
Yeah, I have a huge passion for helping women really recognize that they can have the life that they want today. It doesn't mean that they might not need to make changes. It might mean stop people pleasing. You got to let go of the mom guilt. You need to change your mindset. But really, it's like that idea from surviving to thriving. And how can you have that life? And so I coach specifically women where they're at. I meet them where they're at, and I really just work one on one coaching with them based on what they need. It's a 4 to 6 week commitment, depending on what they're looking for, what their issues are. It could be marriage, it could be weight, it could be work, it could be family, it could be all of it.
Right.
Sometimes I think women feel like we have so many balls in the air and we're not juggling any of them. They're all falling, and we cannot be successful and win. And what it comes down to is we have to learn to put ourselves first, to fill our cup first so that we can fill others. For some reason, we got it backwards, and we thought that pouring into everyone else and putting ourselves last was going to help us feel fulfilled and feel good. And that is not the case. We have to be able to put our oxygen mask on first so that we can help others, including our family, our friends, and I think, have a successful, thriving career as well.
You have a success story of a woman that you've worked with in the past. Share it with the audience.
Yeah, thank you. So I do. A close friend of mine was really struggling with really recognizing, do I want to change jobs? What do I want to do? She struggled with taking a pay cut. Where did she want to go with her life? She was struggling with weight. And so we just started coaching. I'm a natural coach. I coach family. I think sometimes my family gets sick of it. But just through having those conversations with her, she recognized she needed to change jobs. She needed to take hold of her weight problem or where she was feeling about her health. She had some opportunities in how she was parenting her children,
Mm.
and creating more accountability with the kids. When she was traveling for work, she needed to just step away and let her husband manage things at home and not feel like she needed to micromanage things so much and not have that mom guilt on all the time. And so what happened was when she started putting herself first, when she started making decisions that were best for herself, considering her family, of course, she started to thrive more. So the weight started to come off. She started to feel more fulfilled. She was sleeping more, and she was walking away feeling like I can have the life that I want to have.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
What are successful businesses right now looking for in candidates? And that's a
Well, yeah,
broad
that's a great
question.
question. I think the big piece is they want people that are reliable, that they're committed, and that they're going to show up for them. I think there's been a lot of distrust with organizations, because a lot of companies have had to lay people off since the recession in the last 10, 15, 20 years. And so you don't have people that stick in careers as long. And so sometimes it feels like people are 1 foot in, and are they fully committed? And so it's kind of like employers need to be willing to commit to employees, and employees need to be willing to commit. And so being reliable, showing up, right? Going above and beyond when you feel that you can, are things that I think employers are really looking for.
So on the candidate side, when I was looking for a job last, it was about nice paper and great
Yeah.
fonts and making my resume look nice.
Yeah.
And now it's basically a dump into a database that you fill out. What can you recommend to candidates for to let them pop off the page? That it isn't just flowery words and it just doesn't this and that. Like what are employers looking for when I mean, it is just a big script,
Yeah.
what you get. Talk a little bit about that, and I did not ask that question well, but you know exactly what I'm
Yeah.
asking.
I mean, honestly, I'm a big fan of ChatGPT or some type of AI tool. The big thing you have to do is you can't let the tool write the resume and not have it be authentic to you. So you got to start with something and then have it, give it some directions. SEO, right? So it's search engine optimize. How's it going to work in the recruiting system so that it doesn't, there's keywords for the role. Maybe put the job posting along with it. That's definitely one thing. But I'm actually a big proponent of networking. So I actually, yeah, have your resume, make sure it looks nice, make sure you're prepared. I would definitely recommend, um, you know, applying for jobs, but don't have it be the only thing that you're doing. If you apply for a job, figure out who to follow up with. Maybe find someone on LinkedIn that you know, or someone that you know that works for the company that you could talk to. But networking is where you're going to find your next job. And we should all be always networking. It should not, and it shouldn't always be about what can I get. It can definitely, if we're givers and we're out there giving, then we should be the recipient of things too. So if we have the idea of abundance and that mindset, I think things will find us. But having conversations, having coffee with people, being willing to connect people in your network to each other, and helping people. But yeah, I recently worked with a young woman. I helped her with her resume, helped her with her LinkedIn, and then I had to teach her how to network. And what did that look like? And starting to reach out on LinkedIn and seeing who did she know that she could have conversations with. It doesn't have to be on LinkedIn. You don't have to be on LinkedIn, but it could be as much as asking friends and family if they have people that you could meet with to talk with, or who are your top businesses you want to work for, and finding people that work for them or know that people that work for them that you could start to have coffee and network with. And it's an investment in its time, and you actually really need to stay organized because you want to do follow-ups, you want to do thank yous, but you'll see the fruits in your efforts.
That is beautiful. Okay, how do people find you?
Yeah. So I'm at www.peopleSolutionsHub.co. That's my website. So reach out anytime. Like I said, I do free consultations both for the coaching for women as well as for the HR for small businesses.
Email address?
Nicki at peopleSolutionsHub.co.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.